He wasn't the loudest in the room, not the most talented, not the one everyone turned to for answers. In fact, most people barely noticed him. But he showed up early, stayed late, and kept trying, day after day. Still, something felt off. Like no matter how hard he worked, he was just spinning in circles. No progress, no spark. One afternoon, sitting alone in his car after another exhausting day, he stumbled across a podcast. A voice cut through the noise of doubt and fatigue. High performers aren't born, they're made. That one sentence shifted something inside him. He went home, searched for the speaker's name, Brendon Burchard, and found a book called High Performance Habits. That night, he started reading, and slowly, things began to change. You see, a lot of us feel this way. We're busy, overwhelmed, trying to do everything. But deep down, we know we're not performing at our best. We're not lazy. We're just scattered. We're full of potential, but stuck in survival mode. That's where High Performance Habits comes in. This isn't just a self-help book filled with motivational quotes. It's a blueprint, built from over 20 years of research, studying the world's top performers across industries, from CEOs to athletes to creatives. Brendon identified 6 key habits that set them apart. 6 things you can develop, starting now, to dramatically improve your focus, energy, confidence, and impact. And the best part? These habits aren't reserved for the elite. They're for anyone ready to stop reacting and start leading their life with intention. You can find the book at the link in the description. And trust me, it's one you'll want to keep coming back to. Let's dive into the habits. The first habit Brendon Burchard teaches is perhaps the most foundational. Seek clarity. High performers don't leave their lives up to chance. They don't simply roll out of bed and wait to see how the day goes. They don't chase every opportunity that comes their way. Instead, they live with clear intention. Every action, every decision, every conversation, it's aligned with a deeper sense of who they are and where they're headed. They know themselves, they know their values, and they know what they want, not just at the surface level, but at the level of identity and purpose. And here's the key. They don't wait for clarity to arrive. They create it. Every single day. It starts with simple but powerful questions. Who do I want to be today? How do I want to show up in this moment? What kind of energy do I want to bring into this room, this meeting, this relationship? When others interact with me, what do I want them to feel? Most people never pause to ask these things. They rush through the day reacting, answering emails, jumping on calls, handling problems, but they never stop to define their intention. As a result, life begins to feel chaotic. Their time feels hijacked. Their purpose feels blurry. But clarity is like a compass. It doesn't tell you exactly what will happen, but it keeps you pointed in the right direction. It brings focus. It filters out the noise. It reminds you of what matters most when everything around you is competing for your attention. In the book, Brendon shares a powerful insight from his coaching work. High performers consistently describe themselves with just a few carefully chosen words. Words like bold, kind, disciplined, curious, or present. These aren't just adjectives, they are anchors. They serve as daily standards to live by. Imagine waking up each morning and asking, if I were being the most courageous version of myself today, how would I behave? If I truly cared about excellence, how would I approach this project? If I were living with joy and presence, how would I treat people today? Suddenly, even the smallest tasks gain meaning. Your day isn't just about checking boxes. It's about embodying who you choose to be. The truth is, clarity isn't something you find once and then forget. It's not a one-time discovery. It's a daily practice, a habit. And like all habits, the more consistently you engage with it, the more natural it becomes. When you live with clarity, you don't just get through the day, you lead it. You stop drifting. You start designing. Because when you're clear on who you are and what you stand for, every part of life starts to align. Your time, your energy, your relationships, your goals, they all begin to move in the same direction. You stop reacting. You start leading, not just others, but yourself. And that's where transformation begins. The second habit that separates high performers from the rest is this. They generate energy. Think about it. Your output is only ever as strong as your input. You can have the clearest goals, the best tools, the smartest strategies, but if you're running on empty, mentally, physically, emotionally, none of that matters. And yet, in today's world, most people treat energy as something accidental. They wait for the right moment, for a good night's sleep, for a cup of coffee to kick in, or for stress to magically disappear. But high performers don't live that way. They don't wait for energy. They create it. Brendon Burchard is clear on this. Energy is a skill. It's a habit. And like all habits, it can be trained. He teaches simple but powerful techniques to recharge your system throughout the day. One of the most effective? Energy breaks. Instead of powering through hours of non-stop work, high performers pause, even if just for 2 minutes, between major tasks. They take a breath, shake out their tension, reset their focus. It might sound small, but over the course of a day, those tiny resets add up. Your brain stays sharper, your emotions stay steadier, your body stays engaged. Another vital habit? Breath control. Most people don't realize how shallow their breathing becomes under stress. But when you take a few intentional deep breaths between activities, meetings, emails, transitions, you're not just getting oxygen, you're reclaiming presence. You're signaling to your body, I'm here, I'm calm, I'm in control. And then there's the physical dimension, movement, nutrition, and rest. Brendon emphasizes that high performers treat their bodies like the vehicles of their mission, not as afterthoughts. They don't move to lose weight. They move to maintain momentum. They don't eat just to satisfy cravings. They eat to fuel focus, stamina, and emotional resilience. And energy goes even deeper than biology. It's not just physical, it's emotional and spiritual. Ask yourself, what gives you energy? Not just caffeine boosts, but life force. Maybe it's meaningful conversations, time in nature, creative work, or acts of service. High performers intentionally build those things into their days. They don't leave their energy to chance. They curate it, and they protect it. They learn to say no. They guard their mornings. They distance themselves from drama because they know energy is your greatest asset. Without it, everything suffers. Your health, your relationships, your dreams. But with it, you become unstoppable. This isn't just theory, it's a commitment to treat your energy not as an afterthought, but as a priority. So the next time you feel drained, don't just reach for more caffeine or push harder. Pause, breathe, move, reflect. Because the difference between those who burn out and those who break through isn't just willpower. It's how they manage their energy. And the great news? That power is already within you. You just have to choose it daily. The third habit in high-performance habits is the one that hits deepest. Raise necessity. Because wanting success simply isn't enough. Plenty of people want to do well. They say they want to be healthier, more focused, more successful, more respected. But they don't follow through. Not consistently. Not when it gets hard. Why? Because it's just a nice to have. It's a wish, not a must. High performers live differently. For them, success isn't a casual desire. It's a necessity. They tie their performance to something greater than convenience, greater than ego. They perform because they feel obligated to themselves, to their mission, to the people who count on them. This isn't about pressure from others. It's about an internal standard, a fire lit inside that says, I don't get to coast. I don't get to quit. This matters too much. Brendon Burchard calls it necessity, the emotional drive that turns I'd like to into I have to. And it often comes from 4 deep sources. First, identity. Who you believe you are, or who you want to become, shapes how you act. If you see yourself as a leader, a finisher, a person of discipline and purpose, you start showing up that way. Not because it's easy, but because it's who you are. Second, purpose. When the goal aligns with something meaningful, it becomes non-negotiable. You're no longer doing it just for recognition or rewards. You're doing it because it means something. Third, social duty. High performers often feel a sense of responsibility to family, teammates, clients, or even to the future version of themselves. They know their choices don't just affect them, and that weight sharpens their focus. And finally, urgency. They don't wait for the perfect time. They create urgency by asking, if not now, when? If not me, then who? It's that inner conversation, that personal truth, that fuels consistency. Because when you must perform, you find a way. When your reputation, your relationships, your values are on the line, you stop making excuses and start making results. Think about the times in your life when you were unstoppable. Chances are, something had to happen. You couldn't afford to play small. You had no choice but to show up. That's necessity. And here's the insight Brendon makes clear. You don't have to wait for crisis to raise necessity. You can create it intentionally. You can remind yourself daily, why does this matter to me? Who needs me on my A game? What would it cost me if I don't follow through? High performers rehearse their reasons. They write them down, speak them aloud, anchor themselves to them every morning. Because they know motivation fades, but necessity pulls you forward. This isn't about pressure that breaks you. It's about pressure that builds you, the kind that transforms nervous energy into focused drive, the kind that silences doubt and says, this is who I am. This is what I do. When you raise necessity, you elevate everything, your standards, your presence, your impact, and the best part, you don't need more time or talent. You just need a reason strong enough to stop retreating and start rising. That reason is already inside you. Now it's time to use it. The 4th habit is one most people misunderstand. Because when they hear increased productivity, they immediately think, do more, work harder, grind longer. But high performers know that real productivity isn't about doing more things. It's about doing the right things. It's about working on what matters most. The kind of work that actually creates results, moves the needle, and builds your future. Brendon Burchard calls this your PQO, prolific quality output. It's not answering 100 emails. It's not checking off every item on a bloated to-do list. It's not looking busy so you feel less guilty. PQO means identifying the few activities that, when done consistently, produce the biggest outcomes in your field. And here's the secret. Every profession, Every mission, every dream has its own version of PQO. If you're a writer, it's not formatting blog posts, it's writing compelling content that resonates. If you're a business owner, it's not tweaking your website fonts, it's making offers and closing sales. If you're a leader, it's not attending every meeting, it's having the tough conversations that move your team forward. So the question becomes, what's the one thing I can do today that, if done well, makes everything else easier or even unnecessary? That question isn't just powerful, it's liberating. Because once you know your PQO, you gain clarity. And with clarity comes freedom. The freedom to say no to what doesn't matter. The freedom to stop being busy and start being effective. High performers guard their PQO time like gold. They don't let distractions steal it. They don't schedule over it. They don't wait until everything else is done. They prioritize it. First thing, every day. They also learn to batch and block time. Instead of reacting to emails all day, they set dedicated windows. Instead of saying yes to every request, they protect space for deep, focused work, because they know that's where momentum is built. Brendon says, "You don't have to do everything. You just have to do the right things, and do them well, consistently." But this kind of focus doesn't happen by accident. It requires intention, discipline, and a willingness to disappoint others in order to stay loyal to your priorities. Because the truth is, not everything deserves your time. Not every task is worth your attention. Not every request is urgent just because someone else says it is. High performers understand this, and they aren't afraid to act on it. They set clear goals. They schedule around what matters. And they evaluate their progress not by how many things they did, but by whether they advance the outcomes that truly count. It's not glamorous, it's not loud, but it's effective. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, or pulled in too many directions, stop and ask yourself, am I being productive or just busy? Then look at your calendar. Does it reflect your highest priorities or someone else's? That's where the shift begins, not in doing more, but in doing what matters, with focus, consistency, and courage. Because when you master that, productivity is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you own. The fifth habit Brendon Burchard reveals is the one that often separates those who dream from those who do. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's courage. But let's be clear, we're not talking about heroics or dramatic leaps of faith. We're talking about the daily courage to take the next uncomfortable step, the quiet courage to show up, speak up, and stay in the game, even when fear, doubt, and judgment are whispering in your ear. High performers don't live without fear. They just don't let fear drive the car. They feel it, like we all do, but they act anyway. They raise their hand when their voice shakes. They launch the project when it's not perfect. They take the meeting, start the business, hit publish, or tell the truth. Not because it's easy, but because it's aligned with who they want to be. Brendon puts it plainly. Courage is the gateway to your next level. If you avoid the hard conversations, the big risks, or the chance to be vulnerable, you stay stuck in the current version of yourself, no matter how smart or skilled you are. But when you choose courage, even in small ways, you grow. You expand your identity. You build trust with yourself. You prove, again and again, that you're someone who follows through. And that's how high performers are built. One bold choice at a time. So what does courage look like in everyday life? It looks like saying no when everyone expects a yes. It looks like starting the thing you've been avoiding for months. It looks like being honest with your team, your partner, or yourself about what's working and what isn't. It looks like admitting that you're scared, and then stepping forward anyway. You don't need to climb a mountain. You just need to stop hiding behind the mask of comfort. One of the most powerful strategies Brendon shares is to visualize courageous action ahead of time. Before a big moment, a presentation, an interview, a conversation, take 60 seconds. Ask yourself, how would my best self show up right now? What would courage look like in this situation? What's the cost of staying silent or small? This mental rehearsal gives you an edge, because once your mind has seen you act courageously, your body follows. Another key? Stop waiting to feel ready. High performers don't wait for perfect clarity or full confidence. They act with what they have and build momentum through motion. They also redefine failure. To them, failure isn't the end. It's feedback. It's the tuition for growth. It hurts, yes, but it also teaches. It refines, and it prepares you for what's next. So, if you're hesitating right now, if there's something you've been putting off because of fear, let this be your invitation. Your next level won't come wrapped in comfort. It's hiding behind the thing you've been avoiding. And the only way forward is through. Because every act of courage strengthens you. Every bold move rewires your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who might someday, and start becoming someone who does today. So, go ahead, speak up, start now, take the leap. Not because it's easy, but because you're ready to grow. Courage isn't about eliminating fear. It's about honoring your potential more than your comfort. And that's where transformation lives. The sixth and final habit in high-performance habits is one that quietly determines how far you'll go. Not just in your career, but in every area of life. It's the ability to develop influence. Now, influence isn't about manipulation or having a massive social media following. It's not about being charismatic, loud, or always in the spotlight. Influence is about impact. It's about how you make people feel, think, and grow, simply by being in the room. Brendon Burchard defines influence as your capacity to shape others' thoughts, behaviors, and decisions, not by force, but by trust, clarity, and example. High performers understand this deeply. Success doesn't happen in isolation. No matter how skilled or disciplined you are, you won't reach your full potential without earning the support, respect, and cooperation of others. So, what do they do differently? First, they teach people how to think. That's right, they don't just give advice or instructions. They shape how others approach challenges, view opportunities, and define success. In meetings, they ask better questions. In relationships, they offer perspective, not just opinions. They help people shift from limitation to possibility. And that changes everything. For example, instead of saying, "We have to hit this goal," they'll say, "What would it look like if we made this easier? What if we approached this from a place of service, not stress?" By doing this, they become thought leaders, not because of titles, but because of how they help others think bigger. Second, they challenge people to grow. High performers don't let people stay small. They see potential, and they call it out. Whether it's a team member, a friend, or even themselves, they ask for more. With compassion, not criticism. And because people trust their intentions, they rise to meet the standard. This kind of influence is rare and powerful. Third, they model the way. They don't ask for effort they're not willing to give. They don't demand respect. They earn it through consistency, integrity, presence. If they say they'll be there, they show up. If they set a standard, they live it. Their actions speak so clearly that others can't help but take notice. Brendon teaches that influence isn't something you chase. It's something you build, moment by moment, through how you show up for others. And the key to developing more of it? Start asking yourself daily, am I being a role model in this moment? Am I helping others think better, feel stronger, and aim higher? Am I living in a way that invites others to grow? Because people are always watching, not in a judgmental way, but in a subconscious one. They notice your energy, your discipline, your kindness, your courage. And over time, these small moments compound into trust, into admiration, into influence. You don't need a platform to be influential. You just need consistency. You need presence. You need to care enough to help others become their best, while you become yours. So if you want to expand your impact, don't ask, how can I get people to listen to me? Ask, how can I live in a way that inspires them to listen to themselves? Because that's the real power of influence. Helping others believe, not just in you, but in themselves. And when you do that, you don't just change conversation, you change lives. This book doesn't hand you feel-good ideas and leave you wondering what to do next. It gives you something far more powerful: actionable prompts. Simple, yet transformational questions that force you to stop, reflect, and apply what you've just learned. Brendon Burchard calls them performance prompts, and they appear at the end of every chapter. They're not there to decorate the page. They're designed to disrupt your routine, to wake you up from autopilot and ask, what drains my energy most, and what will I do about it? If I were living my best self today, how would I behave? What distractions have I been tolerating? And how can I eliminate them? These questions don't just make you think, they make you move. Not someday, not when you have time. Now, because personal growth doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It begins the moment you stop making excuses and start taking ownership. And that's the real power of this book. It doesn't just give you motivation, it gives you a system, a repeatable, trackable, life-tested framework that you can use to show up stronger, sharper, and more aligned every single day. So if something in this summary resonated, even just one sentence, imagine what reading the full book will do for you. You can grab your copy of High Performance Habits using the link in the description. Don't wait. Start today. Prefer to listen? Get the audiobook on Audible and transform your commute into a classroom, your walk into a workshop. And of course, if you're serious about leveling up your life through the power of books, hit that subscribe button right here on Audiobook Bites. We're building a community of readers, thinkers, and doers who are committed to becoming their best selves. Because you weren't born to drift through life, just surviving from Monday to Friday, only to escape into weekend distractions. You weren't built to shrink, hide, or settle. You were made to grow, to lead, to rise. And high performance is not about perfection. It's about progress. Consistent, courageous, intentional progress. You already have what it takes inside you. What you need now is a system and a decision to begin. So here's your moment. Get your copy of High Performance Habits in the link below. Listen to it on Audible and let wisdom walk with you. Subscribe to Audiobook Bites for more summaries that don't just inform, they transform. Because success isn't an accident. It's not about luck. It's about what you do daily. And it starts with the next habit you choose.